at the end of the day, how people feel when they wake up and work with you is the biggest determination of what gets done. All the PowerPoints in the world don't execute on themselves. They need people who are motivated to do those things. One of the best successes I've had at chess.com is our turnover rate. Almost nobody ever leaves our company. That's a testament to the culture we made and to the positive energy that we've created inside our organization. Yeah, I've heard it before. People at their company are, who are in leadership roles or management roles, are like, wow, like this person left. And I'm like, well, in my mind, I'm like, well, what did you not do for that person that would make them look for an opportunity elsewhere? Maybe they weren't mission aligned. So maybe you don't have a mission that you're working on. Maybe you weren't actually treating them like a human being and you were treating them like a resource. Or, maybe you weren't compensating them in a way that they felt was fair. But like, there's fundamentally a misalignment there.
When did you start playing chess? Like at what age?
Mom taught me at age 8, but I didn't really get back into it until I was, 16 and 17. My grandpa loved games and board games, and kind of we'd play, and then chess came out, and then we were playing again. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So you've always kind of been. Did you play continually after? No, you stopped, and okay.
Well, I stopped after age 8, then picked it back up at 16, 17, and then moved into my freshman dorm room in college, and this kid walked by, saw me playing, and was like, "I got next game," and just beat me so bad. I was like, I clearly do not understand this game in any way or shape close to what he understands. There's something here. And it like pricked me. And I was like, hey, will you teach me? We were in college, and, so I paid him $5 an hour to teach me. I was teaching him guitar for $5 an hour. So we would just trade it out. He stopped taking guitar, but I kept going with chess, and I fell into the rabbit hole, and I fell in love with it. And he went on to become my co-founder at chess.com. So it's kind of a fun story.
God, what an amazing story. So talk a little bit more about the journey and how you got here. I've heard you say that it was, there's 3 different companies involved with chess, leading up to what you have today. So how did you get the idea to do it? And then how did it turn into what you have here today, which is pretty amazing.
When you learn chess, or when you learn anything, one of the first things you think is, I want to teach this. This is great. I've discovered something. I feel this. I want to share it. People love to share things. So learned chess, got into it, studied it a lot. And I was like, I want to start teaching other people. This is a great game. And so, I first thought, I'll just teach at the local library. I'll put up a flyer and see who wants to come do it. And then it was like, I'm going off to college. Maybe I'll do it in schools. And then schools were interested, and then it grew bigger. And then I was too busy to teach myself. So I was hiring people, and, it just kind of snowballed from there. And then it was like, all right, I'm teaching, we've got this program in all these schools. There's, we're buying a lot of chess sets because every chess instructor needs a suitcase and chess sets. I was buying a lot of suitcases and buying a lot of chess sets. And I said, maybe I can get these for cheaper. I started buying them from China. Then I had extra inventory, and I was like, maybe I should sell these online. And this was back before you could buy a lot of stuff online. And so, we were very early in e-commerce and started selling our extra chess sets online. Well, that turned into a better business. And I was like, I'm going to sell the kid business, focus on the chess selling equipment business. And I did that. And then that got kind of the customer acquisitions were tough. And we were like, we should build a community around chess. And then we could use that to sell chess equipment. Then we built the community, and the chess equipment wasn't a great business. And then I was at Stanford Business School. And so we just focused on building the community. And, it turned into chess.com, overnight, 18 years later. So
that's incredible. So you had the idea, you saw the need for a community, you could build this around it. Getting that domain, I think, was absolutely brilliant. In my view, it wasn't a risk at all. It was like one of the smartest things absolutely to do. And then you just knew you would figure out a way to leverage it.
I mean, you have to kind of believe in that. I think, a lot of people aren't sure. They can't see to the end. And that freaks a lot of people out. Or they can they're like, the first step is this, maybe second, but I can't see all the way to the end, and it might go badly. And then they don't do it. And that is a huge difference for me. And it's kind of funny, as I meet people, some people when there's uncertainty, fill the gaps with all the things that can go wrong. And some people are over optimistic and they fill the gaps of what they can't see with a tremendous amount of optimism. And I fill it with kind of an uncertainty. I leave the possibility for both. It might go poorly, and if it does, I'll pivot. And it might go well, and if it does, that's great. And it is a little bit like a chess game. You know your next, you make your move. You think you might know what their best response is. And then there's certain ideas that you think, well, if that happens, I've got these ideas. Or if they do this, I've got these ideas. But chess, the complexity of the possible moves explodes so quickly, you'll never see to the end of the game. You can't. You can only see a short bit ahead. So you have to have tremendous amount of confidence in your next move and then the likeliness of what comes back. But in entrepreneurship, a lot of people, they can't see into the fog of the distance and it's too scary. So they don't do it. And I just call it monkey bars. I see the next bar, I swing to it. The next one's probably going to appear. I'll swing to it. And, if I can't see it right away, I will look around. But I'm very comfortable operating in that environment for some reason.
Yeah. Well, I think almost all of us should cultivate being comfortable there because there's so much we can't know, but we can trust the process. Almost really and kind of trust the struggle that when you go through it, you'll discover the next thing. And there's all these things that have to be discovered, and we should feel confident that we can actually do it instead of just sort of hunker down in fear and not even take a risk, right?
Yeah, because all the emotions up to that are a little bit wasted emotions, whether it's over optimism or pessimism about it. And people get all caught up on either riding the positive wave or the negative one, but the outcome hasn't happened yet. So why emotionally invest in that? I mean, my daughter, a senior in high school, she had her stats final recently, and she was so just in knots about it. And she was studying, but she was crying, and it was scary, and she was going to do badly for days. And then when she went and took the stats final, she did great. She passed with flying colors. It was great. And all that, I was like, all that negative energy that you cultivated or allowed to happen was kind of wasted because that was not the outcome. So don't emotionalize your outcomes, either positively or negatively, before they happen. Create a solid plan, execute on the plan, celebrate your wins, learn from your losses, move on. That's it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I recently, I don't know, a few weeks ago, went to this 4-hour facilitated session on using chess to help with decision making. And I thought it was really cool because the theme was there's so much going on. You need to make decisions quickly. So what's your framework for doing it? And so it was sort of like, control the center, develop the players, protect the king. Got it. And the instant thing that flipped on in my head was control the market, develop the team, and protect the brand. And like everything we do is around that. And it was just brilliant and how it decision make is I don't know what the outcome at the end of the game is going to be, or in business and what's going on with the different companies. But I know I'm going to get better and better at making moves and thinking 1, 2, 3, 4 additional steps, down the road. So do you think about it that way from a decision making standpoint and how it helps?
It's interesting. I had never heard the chess advice. I would give that same advice as someone who's taught a lot of chess. I would give the same advice. I had never mapped it that closely to. I love this. I'm going to share this with my team today. So I love that you said that. Control the market. That's you got to be careful with that one, but control the market, develop your team and protect your brand. I mean, it's critical, all of those things. And we do all of those. It's very important for us to succeed in all those areas. But I'd never heard it in terms of chess. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to credit you with it, Lee. And we're going to enjoy that. But, it is very true. It is very true. And there are things you can learn from chess. Now, there's a lot you can't learn from chess. You don't go be a great chess player and then suddenly all your life decisions are better. But you can think strategically. For example, recently, there's another video game I play, and they made this announcement that all of their players were going to have to do this, sign up for this other account, and that meant that people in certain countries couldn't use it, and it was extra burden for the players, right? Who on earth greenlit that decision without thinking how the community was going to react, and went up in revolts and negative reviews, and the community went crazy, and Sony, big company, backed down. They made a decision and had to roll it back. Who didn't think 2 moves ahead to what would happen? And I have also been guilty of this at times. Launch something, hope, don't plan, just hope for a certain outcome and don't look at it. And then the thing I didn't expect came back. And now I've made a poor decision. I have to deal with it. Why did I not really plan for what the next move or 2 was going to be? So it's hard to do, but you have to do it. You got to think not just 1 move ahead. You have to think multiple moves ahead.
Yeah. And I think in a lot of cases, if we just thought about it for a minute, we would see, oops, that would probably go sideways making this decision.
Yeah. So you make a bad, for a business, you do something that and you do something. Consumers are going to hate it. Are you going to stick to your guns, burn your brand, and just be like, nope, we're right, consumers are wrong, and then go forward? I have watched company after company recently pull back on this. Unity, they make a video game development stuff. They announced this new thing. The community's like, all right, we're done with Unity. Everyone, let's start looking for a new game development software. And they're all like, whoa, sorry. I guess we're not going to do this. Who didn't think 2 moves ahead here?
Yeah.
So anyway, again, I've been guilty of it, but yeah.
Yeah. And usually when I think about value creation, it's holistic for me. And I kind of said it in the intro, it's material, emotional energy, and spiritual. And it's about growing responsibly the total value over time. And I find that they get out of balance. I think we all should be, in my view, in balance in all 3 of those buckets. But they get out of balance where it's 90+% on the material side, and they make some decision that's going to make them more money, but it negatively affects the community, customers, whatever that is, employees, and it implodes. And inadvertently, they're basically hurting their future earning potential by doing that stuff, by only focusing on it. So that's how I think about it. Especially emotional energy. I mean, that's like a superpower for leaders. How do we get people intrinsically motivated to go forward? And then the spiritual bucket, when I look at that, it's more connectedness to ourselves, to the community, to the team members that we work with. And doing all 3 in balance creates the best future, sustain growth in the value of the business and everything else. How does that land on you? And I've heard you talk about things like this.
Yeah. I mean, everything you're saying resonates. For me, one of the best successes I've had at chess.com is our turnover rate. It's almost nobody ever leaves our company. And that's a testament to the culture we made and to the positive energy that we've created inside our organization. I mean, it's such a refreshing place. And then, I've heard it before, people at their company are, who are in leadership roles or management roles are like, wow, this person left. And I'm like, well, in my mind, I'm like, well, what did you not do for that person that would make them look for an opportunity elsewhere? Maybe they weren't mission aligned. So maybe you don't have a mission that you're working on. Maybe you weren't actually treating them like a human being and you were treating them like a resource. Or, maybe you weren't compensating them in a way that they felt was fair, but there's fundamentally a misalignment there. And, we work very hard to be the best place people can work, by treating them like humans, to be totally honest on this level, when I was at Stanford Business School, I went and shadowed, a couple of people at some other big tech companies at the time. And when I did that, I saw that the people that I shadowed did not like their jobs, felt meaning, just didn't feel engaged. These were high-powered people with business, Stanford MBA degrees, working high-up management jobs at big tech firms. Sounds dreamy. They all hated it. They all felt like tiny cogs in a machine. They were sat in meetings all day that didn't feel productive, and they just felt disconnected from it. I'm like, oh man, I never want that for me. So I don't want that for anyone around me or working for me either. Let's make things fun. Let's make it human. Let's minimize that kind of feeling and let's do something that people care about. So I don't know. I feel like the workplace just there's like a sickness in the workplace that we just kind of allow for a lot of people to go to work at these jobs that just suck, and it doesn't have to be. You could do all the same work but feel like an empowered human and enjoy and like what you're doing. But I don't know why people are missing this.
I think for the most part, they don't know how to do it. And I think there's a big difference between companies that want to be seen as the best place to work and those that are just being best places to work, right?
Yeah.
Which is what you're talking about. And I don't think they know how to do it. I don't think leadership teams are sitting back. I hope everybody's disconnected and hates their job.
Yeah.
But I think it comes because largely they're just out of balance in how they think about creating value. For when you talk about cultures, so for me, it's all about how do we connect culture to value creation? Like you and I have businesses, and these are value creation machines that we both, it sounds like, want every brain in the game, everybody to do their part in it and feel fully connected to it. You've done that really well. Are there any intentional components of that, elements that cause that to happen? Because I think you're right. This is a giant challenge, and it's not intentional that it's happening, but it's intentional when it happens right, and you've done it right.
Yeah. I think that like the two main pieces that I would share, and these are things my wife has taught me, so all credit due to her. I'm not sure my best instincts I'm not sure my innate instincts would have been all the best. I learned a lot at Stanford, and I've learned a lot being married to a wonderful person. The two main things I think that are most key are empathy and validation. Empathy is my ability to connect to someone else and to see them as a human and to think about them and what they're experiencing, and then to have that then guide, things. So if someone is feeling proud, like I can recognize that. If someone is feeling nervous, I can recognize that. If someone is feeling sad, if someone's feeling unfulfilled, that I will sit with them and try to see what that is. The next extension after that is sometimes people have this empathy, or they kind of feel, but they don't really know what the other person's looking for. And what every human being wants above everything else is validation. We are like, whatever you believe spiritually, that's there too. But we are basically chemical meat sacks that are walking around with brains and, bodies. And our fundamental fear is that we are alone, that we will die alone, that we will be meaningless. And we are constantly measuring ourselves and how do we fit in here? Do people take me seriously? Are my ideas sane or crazy? Am I loved or not loved? Am I important or not important? And we are measuring all the time, because in order to, evolutionary success depends on our belonging and our touching and our being seen and connected to something. So everyone is so freaked out about if they are, how they fit in. And if you can be the person to validate for someone and make them be seen, to make them feel heard, to make them feel safe, to make them feel seen, all of those things, you will forever be in an important part for that person, and they will join you. So what that means for me is when someone says something to me, that I then show that I not just the words went in my ears, but that I heard it, and that what they said makes sense, and I see their point of view. You're not crazy. If I had that experience, I would feel sad too. That's a really great idea. Whatever the thing is, whatever they're seeking, whatever they're feeling, try to validate that. That is the first most important thing you can do in any communication or relationship. And I have been taught this very well, again, by my wife. And then I've seen it play out, that as I work to validate people, they will then rally around and validate me and my cause and my mission and do it. So when I say, hey, I see what you're doing, you're amazing, you want to do awesome things, they're like, yeah, I do. And I'm like, well, I've got an awesome thing that I want to do called chess.com. And they're like, well, I'll join you and I'll validate what you're doing and I will be a part of that. And so I think those are the two most important things as a leader that I do to make people around me be at their maximum potential.
Yeah, I love that. And I think foundationally in there that a lot of leaders miss is everybody else's life is just as important to them as yours is to you.
Yep.
Act like it, because as you're talking, I can think back in high school. I worked as a cook in a restaurant and got to go through lots of managers. And I remember one guy, Jim Fletcher, just made me feel like what you just said. None of the others did. And I'll remember Jim forever, and I'll struggle to remember the names of the other ones in there. And leaders could really benefit from everything you said right there, just being that type of leader.
Yeah. We're in the human business. I mean, we may have ideas and strategies and tactics and goals and plans and roadmaps and, all the things. But at the end of the day, how people feel when they wake up and work with you is the biggest determination of what gets done. Like, all the PowerPoints in the world don't execute on themselves. They need people who are motivated to do those things. So, yeah, I agree.
And you have north of 700 team members today, correct?
Yep.
And all over the planet. Where are they located?
All over the planet.
Okay. Yeah. That is really cool. And retention is high, and you attribute that to the culture that you've created.
100%. Largely. Additionally, the game of chess is just so friggin' cool. People love it. It's exciting. It's passionate. People are users of our own product. It's fun. If you have, if you're any job we have, it's just made more fun by chess. You could be a business analyst. If you're analyzing chess, people's behavior, it's more fun. You could be in video production. You could be producing, insurance videos, or you could be producing chess videos. It's just more fun. It's just more entertaining. And so if people stick with us because they get to work inside the thing that they like and they're passionate about. So yes, our culture, if we had a bad culture, it wouldn't matter. But the fact that it's chess also, like it's pretty amazing, and people love that. I do too.
That's really cool. I remember when I started playing chess, and I didn't play very long, but in second grade, a friend of mine down the street, his dad taught me how to play. First game I lost, second game I won. He never beat me again. I loved it. I just got it, but I played for a few years and I never went back. So I'm going to have to get back into playing chess. What a cool game.
It's fun. It's casual. You can play it in the quiet moments of your life. A lot of instead of a lot of people just scroll on social media or do whatever. Chess is a great fun thing to do to just fill whatever amount of time you have, 5 minutes or 5 hours. You can make chess fit in.
Yeah, and help you think about the way you think. The remote work piece of it. A lot of folks would say that doesn't work for different reasons. You're taking jobs away from folks in the direct community. I see a lot of value in it, but how do you describe remote work and the value of that?
If your company can't survive remote work, like, you probably have a culture problem, is my view. If you have to be babysitting people for them to do their job, and they have to be in the office afraid of what you might see on their screen in order to stay focused on the right things, you've got a culture problem. You've got a mission problem. You've got a hiring problem. You've got a motivation problem, an incentives alignment. Something's wrong. And I'm not saying that there's no value to being in person. There absolutely is. We get together with our team in person. You can build, relationships. You can do a lot of things that are important. Sometimes collaboration is just best in person. But in terms of people doing their jobs and staying focused and like feeling like a part of a team and a mission, you can absolutely do that in a remote environment.
Okay. And are you 100% remote? Is there an office somewhere?
I mean, there's like a kind of a headquarters studio that's, 15 minutes from here that I go to like maybe once a month, just because there's something to do, or maybe people come in and visit. I think, different people have co-working spaces. They'll sometimes rent out. We got a team in Serbia sometimes that will go to a thing, or, some people in New York will be like, hey, why don't we meet up at this? But there's no office.
Yeah. I'm not sure from my current business, which is consulting, and we've got folks working all over the planet, we'll ever need an office. Again, it just works. When I built an aerospace business and we were manufacturing and doing all the work in house, kind of had to have a facility to do that. But I agree with you. I think there's a lot of value. Any benefits that you're seeing having folks all over the planet collaborating around this in terms of value created?
I mean, anytime you have diversity of thought, you have a richness and a better, output than with, people who just see the world one way. And so the cross-cultural that we have is amazing. The cultural, racial, gender, ethnicity, all the different diversities that we have, from basically being, blind to whoever it is. I don't care. Just come and serve the mission of chess and then bring with you what you have. I mean, it's amazing. And then these people get together once a year, and somebody who's a customer support person in, India meets with someone who's a developer in, Sweden, and then they play chess and meet and, have some drinks and be great friends. And so it's been really awesome to build a global company. It's been all positives. It's been all positives.
I imagine it would help a lot with communicating the value of this globally. With all the different cultures out there, going through, something that I read in the bio up front, which kind of love that you didn't raise money. You really didn't need to. I think at one point you sold 10%, but it wasn't because you needed money. Talk about that? I mean, I guess maybe start with, do you make better decisions when you don't have money? I mean, what was that like, and how did you do things differently because you weren't able to raise money early on?
Yeah. Oh man, we don't have enough time for this whole topic, so I'll try to shorten it. But we definitely did things differently. I think that businesses that strive for revenue early and that are fiscally responsible is a much better way for the vast majority of businesses to operate. There are some businesses that are different, and that speed to market and scale long-term are more valuable. You can look at some of the big tech firms where that was the truth, whether it was, Facebook's or Uber's or whatever, raise $1 billion, spend $1.5 billion, end up owning a market, and then later figuring it out. True for 0.001% of businesses. The vast majority of businesses are better off growing sustainably on their own over a longer period of time. We were one of those. We hired frugally. We didn't overspend. Now, could we have gotten here faster if we had raised money? Possibly, but would we have done it with the right incentives? Would we have done it with the right team in place? Would we? I don't know that we would have. I doubt it. And the other thing is that investors are sometimes just fundamentally not aligned with a company. Not all companies' primary goal is to make as much money as possible. Some people feel a mission. Some people feel satisfied with moderate growth, but enjoyment along the way. I mean, there's so many other things that a business can do. A business is fundamentally an organization of people. Why does maximizing profits have to be the singular goal? I don't know. It's very interesting. So not having investors allows, people to focus on other things. Our mission is to serve our chess audience. You have 3 missions: serve our chess audience, grow the game of chess, and to be the best possible place to work. That's our mission. Will we generate money as we do it? Yeah, we will. But my company mission isn't maximize returns to shareholders. I mean, that's just, in my mind, it's not a great outlook. And I would never align and I brought investors in who shared that vision. And we didn't raise money, but we did sell some shares and some secondary along the way because, life can get expensive and you want to buy a house and you got, kids in college and all that stuff. So,
yeah. Well, I've seen a lot of cases where having money led to really bad decisions and blew everything up,
Absolutely.
and more cases where not having money, way smarter decisions. So with all the businesses that I've started, I've never raised any money. A couple of them have been wildly capital intensive. Still didn't have to raise money. I mean, borrowed money from banks at really
Sure.
reasonable interest rates. But we made such smart decisions because we didn't have the money. I imagine that's a big part of how things were different for you. You wanted to create real value right now, not
Yeah,
waiting for somewhere down the road. Is that right?
that's right.
Yeah, yeah, that's fantastic. Um, so bootstrapping decision making, not raising money. I like your complete answer of 0.1% probably need it. The rest of them probably don't. But a lot of them take raising money as this is just part of how you do it. It's the formula. This is what we read in the books. You have to do it. Um, what's your advice for them on you don't really have to, and how should you think about it early on?
As you said, you can borrow money. It's a little harder to borrow money when you don't have revenue. So I don't want to be, overprivileged in saying that. But you can borrow money. And then you can move toward revenue faster and just expect like a slower pace of growth. That's for majority of businesses. Again, not all businesses. If you want to be an AI provider, well, I kind of agree with whoever, Elon Musk or whoever said it recently. If you're not spending $10 billion a year, you're not going to be competitive in the race. That's such a small percentage of all the different possible outcomes out there. There's consulting businesses, service businesses, product businesses, software businesses. You don't need to raise $10 billion or spend it every year. Just grow slower. It's okay. If you think about it, I like to do fitness. It's an important part of my life. Raising money is like maximum steroids. It's like, okay, you could, but is that really like the best long-term solution to your health? Like, it's not. Like, you would have big muscles. Okay. But you'll have these other downsides, and you might get cancer and, all the other things that are problematic there. So, patient, healthy growth is a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I'm hearing from you is a lot of mission driven components in here. And it's not just the money, but money's important to be able to scale, but it's all the other stuff, really in balance. What's the potential? Is it 5x, 10x from where you're at going forward? I mean, it seems like huge potential to grow this thing.
I don't know. That's a lot of monkey bars away, man. I'm just focused on the next one. So
you're right now. Okay. So
no
as you build the community, what are you learning as you're building the community and kind of studying this to be able to, create even more value in the world?
One great thing that we're seeing is just the value again of kind of community and purpose, and people get into chess for various reasons, but it can become just a positive force in people's lives, whether it's the content and the media around it that they can kind of enjoy, in a consumer way, or whether it's the game that you kind of learn and the struggle of your rating going up and down and winning, but also losing and learning that. So there's belonging, there's struggle, there's achievement. But again, kind of matching all of that to human thriving. That's really what I'm discovering is like whatever we're doing, if we can map it to human thriving, it's going to resonate with people because everyone wants to thrive, and it's going to create interest and value because you're aligning with that. And so I think that's something that I've learned and more over time is to like map what we're doing to like positive thriving. Again, whether as an employee, whether as a user, but what's driving you? What's going to help you feel good and is positive for you in your life? There's a lot of decisions we could make which were short term for money, or were short term to prey on consumer behaviors. I mean, our brains are very susceptible. And there's a lot of stuff, that certain companies do to kind of prey on, people's fears or concerns or deep, underlying human issues. And I think it's a much healthier long-term plan, again, to like use people's better instincts and natures to help them thrive rather than prey on like, the negative human instincts.
Yeah, 100%. It seems like we're driving away from people being part of healthy communities and more isolation. And yet they're really hungry for it. And a lot of people say they're alone. And I feel like you're alone by choice, because there's lots of like-minded, folks out there that would like to be part of a community. But how do you think about that?
I'd say yes, but I want to put an asterisk on the word choice. And the reason I do is we live in a world right now where companies have gotten so good at capturing young people before their prefrontal cortexes have even come in at age 25. We have captured them through highly addictive things. Is it their choice? I mean, kind of. When a kid who's, 14 opens up TikTok and spends 5 hours, was that a choice they made? Maybe, but maybe not, given their age and lack of maturity and the fact that these products have been made to be so addicting. They get, a sugary beverage has been made to hack your brain to create an addiction to that beverage. And so the way people are spending their time and what they're putting in their bodies and into their minds, I don't fault people as much as I do fault industries that are doing this and taking advantage of people. And I don't know that businesses will ever self-regulate well enough. Maybe they will. But it's hard to say, oh, this generation is wasting their lives on social media and, eating junk food. I mean, where's the responsibility on the organizations and companies that are making the most addictive products and technologies and foods possible? We've got loneliness and mental health epidemics, and we've got over obesity and all these different things. And everyone's like, oh, poor choices by today's kids. These are kids, So I don't know. It's another topic I think a little bit about. And we have not as a society evolved to have the level of self-control that we need to operate in this level of addicting environment, is what I would say. The addictiveness of what people do has been ramped up. Calorie density, attention span addiction, all the different things the dial has been turned up, but human self-control, has not followed pace.
Yeah. Are there any studies where chess can help with, and I would think for sure it could build self-esteem through accomplishment, but also critical thinking? Because I love that, that saying, control your mind or somebody else will.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if, chess is kind of a good avenue to help people think more critically and be less controlled. Is there any studies around that you're aware of?
Absolutely. There's been tons of studies that have shown that kids who learn chess learn more patience, because don't move. You've got to sit and think. In a world where swiping up with your thumb is so immediately rewarding, to get kids to just put that all away and sit and look at, a bunch of plastic on a table, that's pretty powerful for them to learn patience and thought process and self-control, to not just make the very first move that comes to their mind. So, there are studies that have been done around this, and I think that those translate to adults as well.
So compensation, and just kind of going back to culture and driving behaviors and all that, I find it interesting that your philosophy seems to be, super aligned with making sure people are paid equitably for the value they bring, not all for the investors, but it goes back across the board. Talk about that a little bit, and how you've set money aside and how you deal with compensation for your team members.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to be honest. We're not the highest paying job out there, like at chess.com. People can go make more money elsewhere, but you will pay somewhere. You will pay with your lifespan or with how much you love it. You can get paid a lot of money to do jobs that are just pretty miserable or meaningless. So that is true. At the same time, we try to pay like the best possible wage we can, especially on a global scale. And then, yeah, in the past, when we've had money exit the company, I've made sure that everybody pays a little bit of tax on the way out to distribute to people across the company. And I will say that for all the complaints at times that there are about, labor versus capital and all the, philosophical discussions you can have around that, I will say that the laws we have in place make it very hard for the average person to have an ownership in a business, because then the tax implications and the reporting structures and the obligations and just the pain that you go through just logistically to handle that is massive. Paying estimated taxes based on K1s that are due to valuations across global national lines, like you're now paying millions of dollars in like fees just to handle the logistics of this. And so it's kind of set up from a legal standpoint to have fewer shareholders to make, and really not make it easy. So governments need to frankly make it easier for capital to be, distributed and owned. I mean, if you give someone a part of a business, they immediately get taxed. So now you have options, but then what's your option valuations? And now you have to do your, this thing, and then there's that thing. And then if it's cross borders with other countries, well, were they an employee or were they a contractor? How can they have equity if they're, and so it's a huge pain in the butt, and no one has solved for this yet. And so, on the one hand, you want to be generous and do all these things. On the other hand, you're now creating tax liabilities for people who are like, whoa, I was here to just make some money. And now, now my taxes cost, $10,000 a year because I, have a part ownership in this thing. So there are structural impediments to this, and it's laws and taxes.
Yeah, unfortunately, at least my view, governments in their effort to get as much possible revenue that they can, they've made it so complicated. It's just hard the way you're talking about it.
Yeah, and lobbies are on the other side of it, trying to do their part of it, right? Whether it's, tax software lobby, or whether it's, hedge fund lobby trying to keep this thing different from that thing and all sorts of things. Anyway, I could go on a lot of tax rants. I'm a happy taxpayer because I do believe in, helping, and I believe in trying to especially give equal opportunities for people, not equal outcomes, but opportunities. But I just feel that like there's so many problems in between taxes and spending and revenue and all the different things. It's so hard to just feel positive about a system where we are more and more paying for programs we don't care about or believe in, and have less and less control for it. I don't know. I'm a little disheartened by the current situation of things, but I want to be I want to be providing more possibility, especially for new generations. If someone was like, hey, if you were going to be president, Eric, what's your number one thing? I would say equal opportunity before age 18. I would put meals in schools, medical care in schools, give everybody the best chance that you could to equal the playing field for everybody until they're 18. And then you're on your own. But we have a pretty stacked system where someone like me who grows up upper class, Orange County, everything taken care of me. And, one county away, there's kids who, are struggling to get, basic needs met. We did not have equal opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. I personally, I came from a super low income family, a lot of challenges, pretty toxic environment, kicked out of the house at the beginning of my senior year in high school. Worked out for me, going forward. And it's so incredible here if you choose to have that perspective. And I've spent a lot of time, Eric, working through nonprofits, trying to create better conditions for K-12 students to learn how to create value. And I think foundationally, we don't connect the dots for them. The purpose of an education should be to create value in the world and help them discover that, not get a good grade, get a diploma, get a degree, get a job, because statistics show that if you have a degree, you'll be, X% more effective in life, et cetera. But what if we connected the dots and said, hey, the purpose is to create value in the world, and we help them discover what their value creation superpowers are?
Yeah. And then how about we stop holding up what pictures of success look like, and that the only success possible is if you're, retired at 35, multimillionaire, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's just an unrealistic picture for most people. How about celebrating people who do a really good job in the trades and they don't have to go to college, and, plumbers and HVAC and, all, electricians and stuff can, make a really great wage and feel really proud of what they're doing and how they're contributing to society and creating value around them, without having, $150,000 in student debt to start off their lives. So the system needs to change fundamentally about what creating value actually means.
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather spend time with a family that's low income, that has all this sort of emotional energy and spiritual value going on, not much on the material side, because it just feels amazing to hang out there over hanging out with a billionaire talking about all their stuff and how much, like, forget that. But I agree. And when I look at, state legislatures around trying to help the kids and create better conditions, it's 95% adults fighting over money, the school bus contract and supplies and facilities, and let's bloat the administration portion so the unions get more dues. It's like, hey, the kids, it's all about the kids. Money and memorization is not education going through. So I'm with you. We should figure out a way to change all of it. I actually wrote a book with a friend of mine titled Value Creation Kid, The Healthy Struggles Your Children Need to Succeed.
Yeah.
And it's about operationalizing value creation within families. And how do you talk about value creation? What's your job for the family? Financial competency. And then the fourth element is healthy struggle. What characteristics do we want for our kids when they launch into adulthood? And are we designing and helping them go through healthy struggles at every age? So when they do launch, they're whatever you want them to be: self-reliant, financially competent, critical thinking, value creation, whatever.
Yeah. It's so funny you say that. Just this morning, I was listening to a podcast with Jonathan Haidt on it, who just wrote a book that's aligned with this. And just that as a society over the last 20, 30 years, we've tried to protect kids so much and remove struggle from their lives. And now that they're older and they're in college and we're seeing all these kids who are super fragile, well, what did you expect when you never taught them to struggle and how to get through that? So very, very aligned with what you're saying there. And I'm going to check out your book for sure.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. And I think it's with the best of intentions, and adults that tell me, I don't want my kids to struggle like I did. I'm like, gosh, I hope they have some struggle, because I love how you turned out, and you wouldn't be that person if you didn't go through it. Same for me and everything going on there. Wealth distribution around the world. I've heard you talk a little bit about this. It's not an equitable system. It's really out of balance. And I always feel like you're creating intentional, measurable value in the world, which is my version of practicing virtue, or you're taking it out of the world in some way. And I call that rigging the game. And the thing that challenges me with politics, for example, is culturally, it feels like a culture of rigging the game and not about creating real value or better conditions for the citizenry to work, live, learn, and play. What's your thinking around all of that? And like directionally, what's kind of going on? And I wonder what nudges we could make to move it in a healthier direction.
Again, big topic. I have friends who are on all sorts of sides of political spectrums and all varying degrees. And what I like to say is that, people like to scapegoat, and I kind of describe this like Scooby-Doo episode, where at the end of every Scooby-Doo episode, you take the mask off the character and you find out who the bad guy was. And everybody on the right is like, oh, government's the bad guy. At the end of Scooby-Doo, you're going to take the mask off and the government is the problem. And everyone on the left is like, no, it's big businesses and corporations that are working to screw people over. They're the bad guy. And my thought is, at the end of the day, you pull the mask off and it's both of them there. And they're both working hard to screw over the average person. And governments are incompetent and greedy, and businesses are greedy and insensitive and anti-human in many ways. And we have problems across the whole side. And it's because people are looking at value creation only for themselves and not societally. And they're doing it at the expense of other people and have not learned that the best value creation possible is when everyone's creating value for each other and together. And you see that in a family. I mean, you would never in a family situation, a healthy family situation, see somebody acting in a way that is so blatantly selfish for their own possible gain at the detriment of people around them in their family. Because you live with these people and it's just not long-term the best thing. And yet we see government agencies and legislators, and we see business owners and CEOs and boards constantly making these short-sighted decisions that are maximally valuing themselves to the overt detriment of everybody else around them. And I cannot fathom that. And I don't know how to change that. That is something that just worries me. And I don't know how we get more good people in office. And I say that because when you see the amazing people that are out there who have raised their hand and said, I want to be part of the solution. And yet you end up with the two candidates we have for United States president right now. It's really disheartening to see who wants to be part of the solution and who we're ending up voting for to be the solution. Discouraging, baffling, disheartening.
Yeah. Well, it's that culture of rigging the game, and they seem to they point fingers, give us money so we can get reelected, and we'll save the world and change it. But they don't want to change the game because they're leveraging fear to, keep everything kind of in place. I mean, going one step further, when I think about, for me, practicing virtue, so I'm creating this measurable value in the world and all three buckets in balance. And I agree 100% with you. And that's how I look at it. I'm pushing it out for everyone. And as part of practicing virtue, I'm pushing back in proportion on the things that are taking value out of the world. And I think the biggest threat to humanity are really thought pathogens out there and how these things take off and blow stuff up. So I speak up every time there's an opportunity in a way that I think will work, where a group can actually hear it.
Yeah.
You're doing the same thing, whether it was pushing back, on Russia or anything else, but you go for it. You're doing this, and you're one of the rare ones that I find actually doing it.
I hear you say that, and I wish I could be more bold about it. I wish I could. I would be, but the problem is that we also unfortunately have a culture where people don't want to engage in actual dialogue or see the benefit of the doubt, and you put yourself out there to say something, and some people are so addicted to outrage and finger wagging and canceling and all of that you, as a leader of a company and an online community, I've actually been shied away from saying things that I think are important, because there are people who it's their hobby to just look at the worst possible version of what you say. And you see it on the extremes of all the different things. If you say something that's centrist, well, you're part of the problem because you don't take a strong stand. If you take a strong stand, then everyone on the other side is now against you and fighting you, and you can't. It feels a little bit unwinnable. So I try to stay a little bit above all of that if I can, and be as positive globally as I can on this. But I have shied away from being a little bit more overt about the things that I think and feel, because the online environment is so outrage driven. And that does, can destroy brand, can create personal problems, and can, be a real deterrent. So I'm proud of you if you are doing it and accepting your audience and doing that. And some people say, look, I don't care because this is my audience. I'm going to talk to my audience, and I don't care about haters. But chess is for everyone. Chess is global. Chess is for far right and far left and everyone in the middle, and for people who are wealthy and for people who are poor and for people who have all shades of skin color and for every person on any spectrum of any gender. I don't care. Chess is for everyone. And so I am careful about what I say, because I don't want someone to say, oh, CEO of chess.com said this thing, therefore they mean this thing, therefore this group should boycott that and do that. So I try to stay above that. I do have my views and my thoughts, but, I think that, right now, Jewish people and Palestinians should all be playing chess. So I'm not getting in the middle of that. You say one thing and it doesn't matter, you could be as nuanced as possible and somebody will find a problem with that. So I'm just in the chess is for everyone, and that hopefully through that, in the long term, that people will learn like nuance, that they will learn thought, that they will learn patience, that they will learn, future, that they will learn community, that they will learn togetherness, that they will learn, so many positive things. And I'm hopeful that message will seep into all the other areas that I don't have to be explicit about.
Yeah, love it. I never really go into details. I stay at a high level and I just ask the question, how is that creating better conditions or more value in the world? And it forces them to talk about it, because I don't pick a party. I don't pick a side. Yeah. It sure would be nice globally if our first reaction for a lot of, global leaders wouldn't be, let's go kill people. Right. I mean, it's like, we're going to say, like, let's create a United Nations where there's an octagon in the middle and the leaders actually have to go in and fight their own battles with another leader.
For sure.
Nation. We don't
I hear you on that.
Yeah, Erik, we're getting close on time here. From this discussion, is there one big takeaway from you that you got the most value out of?
I think that I really like how you talk about value creation across like multiple areas. And I think that a lot of times, as you said, people get fixated on what that means for them. And I think that the most holistic possible is the right outlook. And whether you're a business owner or leader, or whether you're an employee, or whether you're a parent, or any role that you're in, to try to help create all the value across there, emotional and physical and spiritual and monetary and productivity and community and all the different things. And I think that breadth of looking across all of that is a little bit lost today, that a lot of times we get fixated on one thing. Sometimes it's health, and just that one thing, to the neglect of the more deeper self. Or some people are just focused on like the community or social or mental meditation and well-being, and neglect all the other different pieces. Or so I personally am a big believer in well-roundedness and in holistic thinking, and so I really like that you've introduced that to value creation, which has traditionally and typically been so monetary focused. So I appreciate that message from you.
Okay, and I appreciate how you're just being in the world and how you deal with your team and your community. So thank you for that. If our listeners want to learn more about what you're doing, where do you want them to go?
Just go to chess.com and enjoy. If you ever want to see me on podcasts, you can Google me or whatever. But I'm not really out there as a person, trying to be a thought leader necessarily. I'm super busy, trying to execute on the vision of growing chess and the game. But I appreciate you giving me a platform today to share my love of the game and some of the things I think about. And I enjoyed our chemistry and our conversation.
Yeah, well, thanks for your time today, Erik. This has been a real pleasure. And this has been the Show Your Value podcast, where we explore the art of value creation. If you got some value out of today's episode, please like and leave a review. And until next time, show the world your value.